Yeah, you got to hit. I actually got it. Is that okay to do that?
Yes, it got it. That
Okay.
means you've given permission to be recorded.
Okay.
What is, if you had to recommend one piece of software for someone who was starting out and writing, what would you recommend?
I'd have two.
I said one, Richard.
I know. Pro Writing Aid.
Okay. Becky.
Dropbox to back up all your files.
Ah, that's a good one. Backing up.
Oh,
How many of you have backup in the cloud?
I do.
Okay. I am getting better at backing up. I now have on the computer, on a memory stick, on the cloud, and then about once a month, I take everything and put it onto my external hard drive. I'm not going to lose this.
Yeah.
That's smart.
So, I mean, I don't, I'm not as careful when I'm doing something short, like a blog post. But my laptop is now set up that it almost basically it stores everything on the cloud automatically, not on the laptop, which is fine. So Dropbox, some sort of cloud storage.
And if you use Google Docs, it's, you know, it's always saved out there. So you don't have to, I mean, you can back it up somewhere else, but you don't have to. It's not just saved to your computer. And I was going to say Plotter. And one of the things that I like about Plotter is, like, we all kind of came in at the ground level of that, and they just keep working to find ways to improve and add to that program. So, and they have a lot of instructional videos, which for any of you who haven't looked at Plotter yet, there's a lot of.
Why don't you explain Plotter to Laura and Larry and Peggy, because they don't know about it?
Yeah.
Well, I might not be the best at explaining it, so anybody else who's using it, chime in. But in a nutshell, it is what it sounds like, where you can plot your, you know, your book. Now, I use mine in a different way than if you're writing fiction. You would do it by chapters, but I have mine set up as a timeline so that as I'm adding events for each of the women in my book, I can see, you know, for a particular year, what's happening to all of them. But so you have like a, I'm not doing a good job with this. You have a basic shell, and you can add to it anything you really want. Like, you could set it up as chapters and have a little synopsis of the chapters. You can add characters and places. I'd have to open it up right now to even tell you all the things that they've added
too.
Go ahead, Tibby. I'm sorry.
You can add images of your characters and places, and yeah. Oh.
Yeah, so it's still like, I don't know, is it still $25 a year, I think?
I think so.
Unless you're using a Chromebook, they do have a particular version that's a little more expensive to use, because I almost had to go that route, but then I bought another laptop. So, and they have lifetime memberships, which I think you did that a couple of years ago, right, Tibby?
Yeah.
I haven't done that yet, but Ryan, I think his name is Ryan Z. Like I said, they have a lot of instructional videos. So if anybody's interested, is it plotter.com, PLOTTR.com. I'd have to open it up to remind myself how to get to that. But that, I'm going to look up the website and I'll put it in the chat if anybody else wants to chime in while I'm doing that.
it with Hell Hath No Fury, I was able to, I had the year at the top, and then I had underneath it in 3 different lines what the characters were doing. So a synopsis of what Hazel was, and so I was able to keep track of everybody's individual story. So I could write out somebody's story. And that's really what Annette is talking about, is that she can create a storyline for one character and then do it for another character. And then you can look at it and see how they intersect. Barbara?
Also, I can't use it right now because it's not real useful on the iPad. And unfortunately, the iPad is where I am right now because of my vision. But before I had it, it was pretty cool. I had my desktop and I had another TV. So I had Plotter on the TV on a separate screen. So I was able to keep switching back and forth while I was writing. That was pretty cool. You can also go on YouTube and they give lots of tutorials on it, and a lot of authors that have kind of maneuvered it around to what their style is they like. The one I liked in particular was a young lady writing fiction, and she not only puts out all of her chapters and her characters, but she also plots out all of her subplots. And so she could easily see where they're mixing and matching. And it's really, if you can do it, it's great. You know, you might be frustrated in the beginning, but suck it up, you'll get to it.
It's a great way of organizing. Go on, Tibby.
They also have standard plot things, like you can click on Save the Cat and it gives you the basic outline of what that would be. And I can't even think of what the other ones are.
But I think
Yeah, just one of them.
Can't you even pick it by genre?
Yes.
Fantasy, mystery, whatever. So that it gives you a framework. If you wanted to do something in fantasy, it gives you a framework and you can see where things plot in. So, okay, Pro Writing Aid, Plotter, Dropbox, some sort of cloud backup.
I have a suggestion. If you're not at the point where you would use Plotter or Pro Writing Aid, but you just want to get some basic organization, Jamie Gold is a Beach Reads, I think, author. She has a lot of good resources for authors. It's jamiegold.com. Let me see if I can put it up here.
I found that when I got my upgraded that Word 10 is a pretty decent basic editing. You just click on it, and it does a decent job. So if you have Word 10, and I think it may be on 11 too, check it out.
Yeah.
I'll put it in the chat here. She has some what are called beat sheets that basically TV writers use. But it's all the same, you know. If you watch a show like all of the shows follow this. 20 minutes into the show is plot point 1. 40 minutes into the show, you know, give or take a little bit, is plot point 2. Plot point 1, where the main characters have to deal with the problem. Plot point 2, where they have no choice. They have to continue. And she has what's a basic beat sheet. They're all spreadsheets. You can fill them out. If you're going to write a 70,000 word novel or a 100,000 word novel, you just put in the pages and it'll tell you where all of this should occur. And there are very detailed ones, and she has different ones for different story ideas. So, and it's a really good starting point. I started there, I don't know, several years ago when I was doing NaNoWriMo, and I used it and got a draft of the novel, which is now a finished draft that I hopefully can work on after this one gets finished.
I used Final Draft years ago for a script. It works really well because it shows you how many times things appear, and it's a little hard to use at first. And once you get it down, it's really easy to use.
That's for a screenplay, right?
Hmm.
Final draft is for a screenplay.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
I like the Save the Cat a lot also. I thought that was really interesting. And by the time you got done, you're like, I already knew that, but it really does map it down for you. And if you go back, even after you've written your story, you start to see little potholes in your story that you then, but then it tells you where those potholes are and why your story isn't moving, and you're able to fix that. I like that.
Barbara, do you want to explain what Save the Cat is?
Save the Cat is how they said they write screenplays. And so it's like, first something happens, then this happens, then the bad guys are coming, and then you got to do this, and then you got to do that. And it's like steps, and steps. But really, it is the way every movie is written, and it is what is going to move your plot along if you really do look for it.
Sure.
Okay.
I found another useful thing. I talked to my old school buddy, Bob. And Bob, has written all these novels, and he is so disciplined. You just want to smack him on the head sometimes. But he really is right. He just uses a regular Excel spreadsheet. So I can do that on my iPad. So I did that on the iPad. And in my story right now, where I am, basically is taking place over about 20 years or so. But I have to have the 15 years before the story starts because people are born at certain times, 15, 20 years before. And as my story goes, I have to keep track of how old all of them are, because all of a sudden I have somebody having a kid, only she's 12. That didn't quite work. So I got to rechange that. All of a sudden, I got somebody else doing something, and that didn't quite work. So I got to change that up. Then also I went 20, 30 years beyond with historical events, because everything that's happening is shaping where your story is going and things that are going to happen. So I plotted out all world events, plotted out when everybody's born, when everybody marries, when everybody dies. Then I put in major points of when certain things are happening. And then I freaking revise every 2 weeks because that's what you're going to have to do. But it really, I have to say, of all the things I've learned from Bob, that was absolutely the best idea. And it really made things, lay out evenly for me.
Yeah.
I use for people and families, I actually use my genealogy software and set up a genealogical chart for the people in the story. And I did the same thing. I discovered that somebody was born when their mother was 10, which didn't work.
Yeah. I had with Princess de Prioress, because so many of we don't know when people were born. I mean, with Adele, nobody knows exactly when she was born. We know when her father, we know she was born after her father, after 1066. And we know that one brother is older than she is, younger than she is. And so, but, I had to, put that in. And a lot of those dates I was sort of making up because I knew something happened between, 1106 and 1108. So I had to decide where in there it happened because it made a difference later on. So sometimes, yes, the basic spreadsheet, historical fiction definitely need to do that. But even if you're dealing with, a cozy mystery, you've got to keep a timeline straight. And I think one of the things that always bothered me about, and I'm having a senior moment here. The book with their search. Well, anyway, it was a book that if they never stopped to go to the bathroom, that if you followed the events, you know, they were here and then they went here. There was no time, and they were kind of like, well, we're going to get on a plane we're rushing to the airport. We immediately get on a plane and we fly to Scotland, and you know, we're there, and you're going, excuse me, people have to eat, people have to sleep, people have to go to the bathroom. You know, you got to work those breaks in. Otherwise, people just, you know, the story was so breathtaking. I mean, it's one of those things that was like you were driving down the highway at 80 miles an hour, so you didn't stop and think, hey, they need to go to the bathroom here. But I think, you know, you need to think about those things and you know, keeping the time straight. And Laura, I think with your books, you know, creating some sort of timeline, and also doing a kind of what was going on in the country or in Ohio at the same time, so that you can make references to those things. Those are the things that make it really real.
Well, I think that's what I was going to do. I was going to publish the letters and then pick out things that are in those letters at the time that they were occurring, and maybe write a little blurb or whatever you want to call it regarding that historical event or place, you know. So that gives people an idea of what was going on at the time.
How about the possibility of doing that as a blog?
I don't know how to blog.
It's not hard to set one up, and then you do that, and once you get, like, I don't know, how many letters do you have?
Oh, I have a 3-inch binder full thick of them.
Okay, you get to a certain point, you can put them together and make them into a book, and because it's already been written, if you've got all those blocks done.
Yeah.
I know authors who have done that. I mean, that's basically what Andy Weir did with The Martian. He published it bit by bit on a blog and got lots of feedback, and published it and didn't do very well because the science got slammed. So some rocket scientists helped him out, and look where he is.
That's a possibility too. I just don't, I'll have to have some guidance because I don't know anything about blogging.
It's just writing.
Yeah, it's just writing.
Just writing. And it's putting it up on the internet. That's all.
And you put it on Facebook, which to me isn't a very safe space for something like that.
Yeah.
Because you have no way to compile it after the fact. If you put it up as a blog on a website, then you own that, and it's very easy to compile.
I'll think about it. I'm not on Facebook anyway. I got off. Too much politics.
I think one consideration here, because you mentioned it, Tibby, is that, you know, having a site, your name is an important property. And if you don't already have it, you ought to go out and at least reserve your domain name. Yep. I mean, I have larrygale.com. I've had that domain for years, even when I didn't have it connected to a website or anything. It just made sure nobody else could grab that identity on the internet, you know, at some point. So I got in early. You know, it's maybe $20 or $30 a month for a domain. I mean, a year for a domain. And, you know, now I have it connected to a website so I can basically blog and put my writing out there. But, you know, it's just for protecting your name and having that space reserved on the internet. If you haven't already done that, you ought to look at it. It's pretty easy to do. Domain registrars like GoDaddy or Bluehost, there's all sorts of them out there. But you know, if you don't have your name already out there reserved, somebody else could stand up something. Yeah. And then when you go to publish your work, you're not going to be able to put it on what seems like the obvious place.
Right. Once you get the domain, that domain can go anywhere. My WordPress site, which is, you know, just, it's not an e-commerce site, it's a normal site, is $48 a year, and that includes, it might not include the domain name. But once you buy the domain, it's yours, and it'll go anywhere.
As long as you renew it every year.
It's easy to set up a blog.
That's right.
Google now has domains for like $12 a year or something.
Really?
That's great.
Yeah, mine's through GoDaddy, and I accidentally paid it up through like 2027 or something, so I'm good. But it was one of those late night, they sent me an email, and I have insomnia. So I was like, oh, this sounds like a good deal. And the next day I'm like, oh, I'm okay,
Oops.
paid up for a while.
Yeah, I got mine because when I wrote my Western, one of the things in promo was this: once you use the title of your book as your domain, and that's what I did. So mine is Patch of Dirt, and they can go in and see the novel. But that's one way to use a domain name.
With my WordPress account, I have KathleenFair.com. You know, so that's mine. And to me, it's worth every dime. I mean, I probably publish more on our blog now than my blog, although sometimes I cross-pollinate. Yeah, I would say, Laura, that's something you need to consider. And as soon as you transcribe a letter, you could put it up. WordPress is really simple. It's really just, if you can type it, you can paste it into the blog.
To be just a blog. You don't need anything else. You might want a little bit about yourself and a blog. You don't need, all the fancy menu stuff.
Yeah. And you can just put it in there. And one of the things we can do, and we need to get better about it with our own blog, is we can then put a link out, with whether it's Facebook or whatever, we can share that so that other people look at it. I'm sure there's sites out there for Ohio history and, Put in Bay. There's probably some Put in Bay Facebook group. We put a link on that, and then people who are interested would read those letters. So
that's an idea too. I didn't think of that.
And as soon as you transcribe a letter, because you don't have to write anything, all you have to do is type it, you can cut and paste it and put it in a blog. And it's, begin to accumulate it. And then you'll begin to see, you don't have to look at it in terms of a whole long process. You do it one letter at a time, and you go one letter. So.
And you really need to be on Facebook, but you do not have to be personal. You can have a business page on Facebook as your author page without getting into the politics.
Yeah.
Because you don't friend people. They don't friend request you. On a business page as an author, people can like you and follow you. And you're in charge. If somebody posts something you don't like, you can take it down. I've never had anybody post something offensive. I have on my personal page, but you set up just a business page.
Yeah.
And you have a profile page, which nobody would ever see unless you told them where it was. So if I go to your Facebook page, Laura, whatever it is, and I find it, then all I'm going to see is your author page.
Larry, you're muted.
Yeah. If you're using your pen name and you don't want your real name out there, that's a great solution.
Yeah.
Also, there's a thing called Newsfeed Eradicator. It's a Google Chrome extension, and it will take away your newsfeed. So like when I go to my Facebook, my personal profile page, I don't get a newsfeed. I just see where it's like the option for me to post something, and underneath it just has a quote. And it lets you alter the quote. So like it might be a quote from like Mother Teresa or something that's pre-built, or it might be one of mine that says like I have one that says, "Why the hell aren't you writing?" that pops up from time to time. And
what's it called?
It's called Newsfeed Eradicator. It's really helpful. And if I want to see the newsfeed, I can do it on my phone, but I really don't like, doing Facebook on my phone. So I'll like swipe a few times. I'm like, okay, that's it. I still get all the notifications. So something like if someone I follow posts something, I'll get it that way. But still, it's not like it's in my face every time, because I'm a social media manager on my day job, and I manage, at one time it was 27 different pages. It's come down because I told my boss, I'm like, I got to cut back. So.
Okay, what does a newsfeed eradicator do?
It takes away your news feed.
Which is,
When you go into Facebook and you see everybody else's post on the front page, I don't have anybody else's post.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep, it's just a blank screen.
But you get a notification if someone.
Yeah.
And what you're saying, Becky, is that's not on all devices. Like you could set your, like I could set my laptop up that way, but on my phone, I could still see everything, right?
Right. Yep. And it also works for YouTube and Reddit, and I'm not sure. It's a like LinkedIn, a few different things. So.
Yeah, I've got a question. I'm trying to set up a CEO for my website, and when you follow what Rick says, there's nothing there that says you're a writer. The purpose of the SEO, I guess, is to selling some product. How do you get around that? I'm stuck.
Oh, Becky says just a minute. SEO is search engine optimization.
Yep. And and Wix has a step 1, step 2, step 3, and I'm not selling anything, so I don't know what to do.
I don't have an answer for that. I don't know about Wix.
I think, yeah, I'm still trying to figure that out.
Was about Wix. I
Yep.
missed the question. My golden retriever had to.
Again, Richard. Say it again.
I'll figure it out.
Well, he's trying to figure out on Wix. He wants to have them with the search optimization.
Mm-hmm.
And when he goes to follow the steps, they seem to want him to be selling something, and he's not selling anything, and he doesn't know how to get around that.
That's correct.
Yeah. In my do you have the free version of Wix?
No, I've got the premium.
It might just be something in the settings that it defaults to an e-commerce platform.
I'll check it because they keep bugging me. Let's say you're half done, finish it up.
Yeah.
I'll look at that. But, thank you.
A place to go for help.
Yeah.
Also, search for it on YouTube.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Almost anything is available on YouTube.
Yeah. Because I'm a visual, so like sometimes if I read it, I don't really get it, but if I see someone else do it, then it helps.
Okay. So, Laura, I think one of our goals for you in the new year is to get you to have a domain name.
Domain name and apparently get a blog going.
And that's pretty easy.
Yeah, I already have some of the letters done.
Then you're set.
Now here's a question for you. When you're transcribing these, there's misspellings in there, and there's punctuation that is not right because that's how people write. Do you publish them as is?
Yes.
Or do you publish them as is and then put in parentheses SIC? I don't know what to do there. Just publish as is and give a little blurb about that's the way they're written.
Yeah, if you had a lot, like if I was doing this and I had a lot of them, like instead of putting the SIC in front of every single thing,
which would be about 20 per letter.
Yeah, you'd add like 60 pages to your book.
Yeah.
But I would just in the author's note in the beginning, just like where you explain that the letters are authentic and you've left them as original as possible, including any misspellings and punctuation marks.
So kind of like a disclaimer of sorts.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I would have a kind of an opening paragraph. This is one of a series of letters that were written between and they tell a story. All something to the effect of, I've transcribed them exactly as they were, spelling errors, punctuation errors, whatever. And that you would have that blurb in front of at the top of every post.
Every post?
Yes, because like you might have new readers each time, and that way they understand You know, like if I've read all of your blogs, I'm just going to skip over it. But if I'm a new reader, I want to know that.
Yeah. So, and it would just be a sentence or two, and then copy and paste the letter in the body.
Yeah, because I know I've mentioned this before, you know, when I have a lot of letters from Mary Lincoln, and in that age, people then, or at least around Mary Lincoln, used a lot of commas unnecessarily, and they used the symbol for and. Like I wouldn't even thought they would use such a thing, but they used it so often, it surprised me to see. But I guess, they lived by letters back in those days, so had to create their own shorthand in some cases, right?
Yeah.
So the person, I know that I can't remember her name, the one that has done a lot of letters. Maybe you are one of them. If I run into an issue with maybe being able to read a word in that letter, because I've had a few of those, do I leave them, unintelligible or unable to, however what the word is, or do I just have somebody else look at it? Maybe you can decipher it.
Do you have a guess at what it is?
No.
Unintelligible. Unintelligible.
In brackets or parentheses, unintelligible.
There are genealogy groups on Facebook. Oh, sorry. There are genealogy groups on Facebook where you can, and I'm sure they might be on other platforms too, but you can just do a little screenshot of that one word, or like the little, like maybe the paragraph, and say, hey, can anyone tell me what this word is? Because these people work for, some of them volunteer to translate census records.
Yeah, that's fun.
I've done that. That's
cool. All right.
Facebook author page.
Okay.
That should be your first step.
Okay, Facebook author page, then
with your author name, whether you're going to use your real name or a pen name.
Well, don't you put your domain name in your Facebook author page too?
No, but you need to decide that. Buy your domain name. Decide if you're going to use your real name.
Probably use my real name.
Okay, buy your domain name and then use that for your Facebook author page. That gives you brand identification.
Okay.
And once you set it up, then you can connect with people and ask them. It's going to take a while as a new Facebook user, but you can connect to, was it Kathleen that said, there are local websites, genealogy groups.
Yeah, I know how to use Facebook. I have Facebook. I just got off of it. That's all.
Yeah, I would be checking with, there's got to be a put in bay.
Oh, there is, because I was subscribing to it.
Yeah,
I think there's one for the Historical Society.
And that would be even sending them a screenshot of, can you translate this word? And sometimes it's in the context. You can figure it out from the context of the sentence.
Yeah.
Maybe you wanted to say something. You're muted.
Okay.
There you go.
One of the feedback that I have gotten from one of the beta readers was she thought that maybe I should have either a prologue or glossary because of the difference in the cultures of China, that they would know that the women or everybody takes two names. They have an English name and then they have a Chinese name. And I haven't been putting their Chinese name in, just using their regular name, and maybe in the parentheses put their Chinese name. But I didn't know if I've been in the past headed away from, or told, or said to head away from not having a prologue. And I explain it, but even though they get it, and then maybe a chapter later they'll forget and go back. So I didn't know if that's one problem I think I'm going to have with
Oh, that's a toughie. I think I mean, one of my problems always with Russian novels is they all had 7 names. And, you know, you called one name by your family and another name by friends and another name by strangers. I think you need to figure out what makes sense. If it's just one beta reader that says it, ultimately you've got to follow what sounds right to you. And if you're always referring to, I mean, I'm not sure I would do it as a prologue. I might think I'd put something at the end saying I've referred to these people by an English version of their name. They all would have had a Chinese version or whatever. I mean, however you're going to do it.
Yeah, because some of it may not really be that important.
Right.
You know, some of the minor may not be important, but some of the major things, that might be a good idea to add something at the end.
Yeah. So you know, ultimately it's your voice and it's your book. And it's what you feel is right. And I know Richard has really strong feelings about prologues.
Yeah.
Yeah, V and Age at the top that made that point. So
yeah, and
not to.
Yeah, but things change, and you know, I certainly read books that have prologues. Half the time, I wish that they would just have put it in the middle of the book. That it just seems to be a time waster to me. But you know, it depends on the book.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any sort of questions or we've got some goals for Laura for the new year. So you've got your New Year's resolutions made. I would say the other resolution for all of us, and some of us are better at it than others, is we need to make public what our resolution is. I remember going to a workshop one time and somebody said, the guy said, make a list, write it down. And I went, man, I can remember in my head. He said, make a list, write it down, and check it off. He said, when it's just in your head, it's really easy to forget about it. And that was the summer I put the list on the refrigerator. There was you know, what I was going to do in the summer. And every time I passed the refrigerator, it was like, oh dear. And then I'd work on checking them off. So, you know, to say this is sort of our January mini writing challenge, our NaNoWriMo Rebel, when you say it and tell us what your goal is, we can help you stay accountable. We're not going to beat you up if you don't do it. But somehow being accountable makes you do it a little bit more. Barbara.
That's exactly what I did when I decided I'd had enough and I'm going to start with a new project because it was too difficult for me to edit the other ones in the existing vision that I had at the time. So I spent the month of September gathering all my research, making all my decisions, what I was going to do with this novel and all. Then I asked Kathleen, Madison, and Annette. I told them what I was going to do. And then it made me kind of have to be accountable to them that, hey, what are you doing? I get a little pop-up now and then. Madison says, so where are you? So where are you? And I can't say, well, I'm on chapter 3 and it's been 2 months. No, I should be here. And then as I begin explaining to her what's going on, she gives me ideas. And even if I don't talk about the novel, just to be accountable to somebody and them cheerleading, that's really helpful. I sent Kathleen a little Christmas thing through Amazon because she was so helpful. Amazon messed up. They were supposed to send her a naked man, but they sent her a box of chocolate. You know, I can't help that. But she was so helpful in keeping me online. I really appreciate it. I think, Laura, I think your biggest problem is you have so many letters, you have so much information, but I don't think you've totally decided what you want to do with all of it. Once you make that decision, it will get much easier. And I think Stop questioning yourself. Just make one decision, stick to that. You can freaking change it later, but make that decision, because if you don't, you're going to wallow in this for years. And believe
Which I have.
you know, and we've all done that. We've all done that. But make the decision and just go with that, and you can fix it later. And I have found it much easier. Once I did September, I did my planning. Then I put my outline together and I did the spreadsheet like Bob told me. Then I start writing. Well, now I'm into 35,000 words. I already know the first 15 suck, but that's okay. I'm not going back and fixing them now. They'll get fixed on the rewrite. I just keep pushing on and pushing on. But as I'm writing and it's getting better and better and better, I know I'm going to be able to fix that. But I'm already, then I get to the point and I keep hearing, oh, great goddess Tibby in my head. What's your pitch, Barbara? What's your pitch, Barbara? What's your theme? What's your theme? You know, and I hear Richard the same thing. And so it's like, okay, what is my theme? So I have to stop and I have to look at, of course, other things. Where has your character grown? Has your character grown? What does your character want? What does your character want? Okay, Tibby, I already figured that out. Okay, but is she getting it done? You know, and you really, once you've made your decision, you can move into these things and you can revise. But stop questioning yourself. Just make a freaking decision and go with it. And it will get easier. I decided I was going to, because I'm disabled right now. I can only do so much. I'm doing 700 words a day, 5 days a week. That's as best as I can do. Screw Nano right Mo. I can only do 700. Well, guess what? I'm doing between 12 and 1500 because it's getting easier and easier and easier. And I can't say enough. Just sit down and do it and make up your mind what you're going to do. Stop and listen to what all these guys are saying are helping, because there are a lot of good hints here, guys, a lot of them.
It's the holding accountable. Peggy.
I think in the new year, I'm going to stop doing the neighborhood newsletter. We put our phone number in there and Larry put beside it, no negative calls. So then they wanted us to put the our email in it. So we put our email and Larry put no negative emails. So what they did was one neighbor, she came over 3 times because she couldn't complain to my phone or email. So she comes over to the house about somebody's dog, you know, like 3 times a day. And I'm just thinking, you know, we will work on, you know, our publications and books and with these groups, and probably not the neighborhood newsletter, which is forever.
Yeah, right. Where to focus your energies if you're writing, you know.
Okay, Nikki, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, maybe that would be a good blog for us in January, is list all of our goals, or, you know, everybody has, you know, what we're going to, a little blurb about what we're going to do and post that in, and, you know,
write them up on that Facebook page.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Then they're published.
Yeah. It is. I had to do a senior thesis when I was in college, and I had an advisor who expected me to be there every week. And so every week I would go into Dr. Walcott and he'd say, well, what have you done this week? And I couldn't say nothing because I just couldn't. And if I lied and said, oh, I worked on, you know, Stetson's book, then the next week he'd go, well, how did it go with Stetson's book? Did you finish? And then I'd have to do 3 weeks worth of work to catch up. So there is something about being held accountable. And, you know, as I said, we're not going to beat you up if you don't make your goal, but you've got to have a goal. If you don't have a goal, you're going to.
That's right.
You're going to wander. And if it's, you know, Bob, who's not here, and some of you don't know him, some of you don't, He is the most disciplined writer that I have ever encountered. It is his job, and he approaches it like a job. He is in the Word Factory at, I believe, 9 o'clock in the morning. He works until noon. He takes a break. He works from 1 to 4 or 1 to 5. I mean, that's what he does. And then he works out a schedule in terms of the year. Yeah. With the last books, he was turning out 2 books a year. And they are long books, but he was just, it was a job. He got it done. So I think, creating those goals, and we'll nag you a little bit. I've nagged Barbara. I've got to nag Annette a little bit more. She's had enough of a vacation. And yes, I know she's working retail, but you know what? After Christmas, it's going to slow down.
Yeah.
So praise the Lord.
Becky manages to do it and hold down a job at the same time. And if Becky can do it,
anybody can.
By God, we can do that.
I'm telling you, if I didn't have to take care of my house myself, I could probably be writing so much more. I think that it's probably more of a block for me than a job. It's just that when I have a day off, it's like, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. I need to move to an apartment or something where I don't have all this yard work and such.
Do you have a laptop?
I do.
So have you thought about maybe like after work, like taking your laptop with you to work, and then after work hitting like a coffee shop for like an hour and just writing a few days a week?
I mean, I could do that, but I also have to get home and let the dog out. So yeah. There's just a lot of, I know it sounds like excuses, but it's life.
No, I get it. We got 5 dogs here. So
yeah, it's just me. So,
but
I can say some of that on that though. I really had a much harder time coming in, sitting at my desk, sitting in front of the desktop and making myself put that time, because when I come in to do that, I've got to do it for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. I've got to sit down and do it. Now I have to do it on my iPad. So I have it on my desktop, I have it on my laptop, I have it on my iPad. And when I can only catch 5 minutes, I little peck on my iPad, you'd be surprised how much you can get. Yep. But I think not only being accountable, I think you just have to decide this is something you're doing for yourself. This is fun. Be excited about it. Enjoy it. And it's, it's like you go to get a massage for yourself. Only I do this for myself. I enjoy it. I love it. And I just want to do it just for myself. Forget everybody else. Forget making money and all this other stuff. And it's like when you read for your own enjoyment and pleasure. That's the same thing. That is one goal I have in the future also, is to read more again. I kept trying to figure out, why do I use had all the time? Why is every time I turn around, I have had. So I'm researching why I'm doing that. And finally, some little idiot said, you're not reading enough. So your sentence structure is the same when you are writing. You're writing under the continually same sentence structure. That's why those words keep appearing. And I thought, well, let me see if I can change this up a little. You know what? It was right. So one of my goals is to read more. And I'm finding I'm enjoying it a lot more. I'm enjoying writing more as I'm reading a little bit. And I do a little bit here and I do a little bit there. And I'm not worried about the whole world of the whole picture of it. When it gets done, it gets done. But I, on a weekly basis, try to I need to do this much this week. And if I don't get it done, I will forgive myself. But like Kathleen says, sooner or later, you got to get caught up. So you just, you're either going to do it or you're not doing it.
Yeah, see, my problem is that I didn't have a computer for about 4 months. So I fell way, way behind, and I'm playing catch up. And I'm still way behind, but I'm writing every day. I'm beginning to get back into the rhythm. But it was tough without a computer.
I do.
How do I just go to voice and not the picture?
Keep talking. We can hear you.
Okay.
Nikki?
I'm looking forward to January, so my husband is traveling a little more and I can get back to my life.
So done.
Becky?
There's a book there's an author named Chris Fox, and he writes sci-fi fantasy, but he also writes like how to write books and publishing marketing. But one of his books is called 5,000 Words Per Hour, Writes Faster, Writes Smarter. And it's the first book of his I ever read. And it talks about how he used to work telemarketing, and there were like 2 minutes between calls. So he would just pull out his phone or whatever and write for those 2 minutes. And then at the end of the day, he was surprised how many words he had, kind of like Barbara was saying. And I've done that for like waiting in line at the grocery store or something. I'll pull up my phone, I'll start a new email. I won't send it to anybody, it just stays in drafts, but I'll open Gmail on my phone and I'll just write. Like maybe like something, I'll see something and it's like, oh, you know what? My character was in line for something. And let's talk about how frustrated she was. And then later on, I'll, find a way to work that into the book. But there's always ways to do it. So I don't always use them. I'm like, the hypocrite in me, like I know all the ways to do it. It's just making myself do them. But he's got a lot of great books out. Chris Fox is his name. So
I had a teacher who just said that when they had problems, they would just sit down and look at a blank piece of paper. And that would make them get either pissed off because they hadn't done anything, or they come up with a whole bunch of ideas. It's a good thing to try.
I think what happens with me is that if I don't do it, it becomes easy to procrastinate.
That's right.
So,
yes.
And you get out of the rhythm of it. And
that's
so
right.
When I have to be accountable for something, then it becomes, okay, I've got to do it. I'll work for a half an hour. And at the end of the half an hour, I'm on a roll and that's, I can do a little bit more and a little bit more. And it's using, I love Becky's idea of using those odd minutes.
Yeah.
We all have them. And it's just figuring out a way of doing it. Even if it's writing on a notepad, keep there is such a thing as paper and pencil. Jot those things down and you'll use them somewhere. I'm trying to think, again, a senior moment. The member of our group that we lost had the monks. Tibby, you know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
He had a file on his computer of just little snippets. He'd come up with a snippet and write a paragraph, didn't know where he was going to use it. And he would just keep this file. And anytime he was at a loss, he would pull it up and go through and, oh, that's a good idea. So yeah, use those moments. And I know for Eddie, that's hard for you because you've got papers to correct, and but hopefully we'll give you enough ideas so that when you do have some time and you can grab some, you can get working on that story because it's good.
And I'm trying to get back to 3 to 4 hours a day. That's my goal. And I'll increase it as I start getting more work in.
Okay. So I think that's a goal for all of us, is just to be more accountable. Set up.
You really have to do it. I mean, your worst judge is when you look at yourself in the mirror. And that's what you just said, I didn't do a goddamn thing today, I'm going to do it tomorrow. And you have to do it. It's easy as hell to procrastinate. Yeah. I mean, F. Scott Fitzgerald used to write letters to people because he didn't want to write. It's very easy to procrastinate. I know how to do it really well.
Yeah.
But it's a lot harder to get back in. And once you get back in, just stay in. I mean, I'm enjoying my, the teaching. I won't be teaching again until the summer. And now I've got all this free time and I got tons of work and I couldn't be happier.
Good.
Yeah, if I'm on a deadline, I'll get a lot more done in my day job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where do you teach at?
I taught short story writing at the Alley program at URI, and I can do it again in the summer. And I had a really great class. They came in, not knowing what was going on, and most of them could write a publishable story by the time they got done.
Right. Yeah. The URI's OLLI program is, fall and summer, whereas down here, because we have the snowbirds, we tend to do more courses in the winter.
Yeah. Well, they have a lot of courses, but the writing course ain't open again until the summer. But I'm going to keep doing it forever. I mean, I got a hardcore of students, and they're meant to be sending me the work when they get around to it, but they were really good.
Good. Okay, so Barbara's goal, finish up.
January 15th, I'll be done with the rough draft. No if, and, but about it.
Great. Laura's going to get the author page on
Book
Facebook,
page.
domain name. And if
Yep.
you get the domain name through WordPress, you get a blog with it, a free blog, easy enough. We can help you set that up. And then, of course, we can get it on. I think it would be fascinating on our blog. To, this is an example of what people are doing.
Yeah, I want to try to get back on that.
Yeah, we need to.
Speaking of which, we need a blogger for next week, not this coming Monday, Christmas. If not, I'll just put up a Merry Christmas.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got some ideas. I just have to work them into my schedule.
Okay, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just put up a generic Happy Holidays kind of thing.
Because I'm getting caught up on stuff now.
I just had a former student whose blog post went up today about approaching. He turned 49 today, and it was and that's hard to say, former student turned 49 because he was not one of my first classes. And he, but it was thoughts about being close to half a century and what it means. So it was a great blog post. So will be working on one, Lady Six Sky, who is somebody I did not know about. And she is I was always taught that the Maya people were very peaceful, and she was a military leader of the Maya, destroyed cities and killed people. And they are finding out more about her through archaeology. So I will put that out there. Got the information, just need to write it. So I'll let you know when that's ready, Tibby.
Great.
Tibby, I'll be doing blogs more in the future this year. This was a funny story to you. I sent you a message, instant message, telling you that I was going to blog more, and I hope you were doing good with Blue. Give Blue a hug, give Ken a hug, and everything else, and apologize that I haven't been blogging as much. 2 days later, another friend sends me a message and says, do I have a new nickname? And who's Ken that I'm hugging? I sent it to the wrong person.
Oh,
I never saw that.
Because you didn't get it. But I told her not to be hugging Ken. So if a strange Canadian lady hugs Ken, let me know.
Hey.
I think that would be a cool blog, maybe even publish what all of us say our New Year's resolution is, to read more, to write more, to be positive.
If you guys would send me your,
Bye, Nikki.
Your New Year's resolution,
Yes, I have to.
together as a blog.
It's nice seeing everybody. And
Merry Christmas.
happy holidays.
Yes.
Happy
And
holidays.
and send me what your goals are, and I'll put it together in a blog.
Fantastic.
Yeah, either send it to me personally or send it to me through Groups.io, and we'll put it together. Here are our goals.
It was great seeing everybody again.
Yes.
Bye, Nick.
See you more in 2023.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you.
Good to meet you.
Yes, nice meeting you all.
Well, I made my goals in November, and I got to make more for next year.
Yeah. for Laura and Larry and Peggy, Nikki has been writing a book, which I think is roughly based on her experiences, just by putting together little pieces of a woman who goes to China because her husband is going to be working over there, and being dropped into this very alien culture, and then realizing that there's a child smuggling operation going on, and how do you deal with this in the foreign culture? And I know she was at one point, she talked about being worried about the reaction of the Chinese government to her writing this book, and her concerns about that. So it should be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, it was really well done. I mean, I've been in China, and she nailed the atmosphere of the country and how the people think. And I wouldn't give a damn about China. Screw them. Get the book out there. Get them pissed off.
Yeah. So anyway, anything else anybody wants to add?
Nope.
Becky.
I'm making a list of our resources as people talk about them with the websites and everything. So I'll post that in the group's IO when we're done here today.
Hey.
But also another one that as I was making the list, LastPass. It's a password keeper, and it's free. You can buy the paid version, but I've only had the free version since 2017. Someone told me about it at a conference, but it's like a password vault.
Yeah.
And so when you go to log in somewhere, it automatically keeps your password. And there's a phone app version too. So like if I go to log into Facebook on my phone or something else, I can just use my thumbprint on LastPass to log into it. So.
Yeah, my goal for November, I sent out 2 short story collections, and I've had 3 rejections so far, to 24 publications. And a lot of them were, we'll let you know whenever. And going through all of the information I had on small presses, most of them are closed temporarily because they got tons of work coming in, which is a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody just posted on the SCWA Facebook page about, did you see that, Richard? Because I thought of you, how they, I can't even remember who the author was, but eventually decided to go with a small press.
Yeah, well, there's a fantastic book that I used. I used other sources and end up getting about 30 places to send it.
Yeah.
And some just wanted chapters, some wanted the whole thing, and I'll just see what happens.
Are we going to talk about marketing too, Kathleen?
Okay. Yes. Now time to switch to marketing. Some of what we've talked about, particularly directed at Laura with domain names and Facebook pages, that's marketing. Business cards.
Yes. And bookmarkers.
And what?
Bookmarks.
Bookmarks.
But business cards, have some sort of business card.
Yeah.
Particularly when you go to a conference, you pass them out. In the days when I was traveling, what was that, years ago? I was somewhere and I had a SCWA t-shirt on or something, and somebody said, "Are you a writer?" And I whipped out my business card and, here's the information, here's the book. So, got to have a business card. Even if you don't have a business, have a business card. What else is a must for people?
Book plates. Book plates are like a little label sticker. They're like 3 inches by 4 inches, and you can get them in like bookplates.inc or something. I don't know what it is, but you can also just cheap out like I do and go to somewhere like Sticker Mule which has really great deals. They'll email you the deals they have on stickers. And I just get a label printed there, but I get it matte so that I can use a felt tip pen to write on it, and or regular ink pen works too, but I don't get glossy. And then what you do is if someone buys your paperback, or like if you're at a book signing and you run out and you're like, oh no, buy the paperback, email me a picture, or email me your address, and I'll send you a signed book plate.
Oh, cool.
So, and then they can put that sticker in the front of their paperback, even though or if they don't live close to you, like I have a reader in the UK, and they're like, well, how about your paperbacks? But I'm sad I can never get them signed. I'm like, well, here, let me send you some book plates.
Yeah, what I did with my collection was Avery has round gold things, and I had the award button, so I just took that and put, finalist, and put the gold stamp on, and that caught everybody's eyes. So that's something to think about if you get published and I get a couple of reviews. It really worked. It really worked. And then get some trick things. When I had my Western, I had a whole bunch of little cactus-like cups, and I had, when I was the book sale, I had a table cover that was cactus. Think like your book. And when I had the dog one, I had the dog autograph Paul, and that worked really well too. So little things like this make a difference. And don't be afraid to push the envelope. It really works. And I think it was Linda, the other girl, made me a nice little thing about 4 books. I use that all the time.
Well, obviously I'm not marketing anything, but I'm still, 2 things are going through my mind about marketing right now. I still think TikTok has a place for all of you.
Yes.
Even though it seems more complicated than it really is. I have TikTok on my phone, and I started watching TikTok videos over the summer after I let my grandson put it on my phone so I could keep him busy one day when he was with me getting my hair done. You know how exciting that is for a 15-year-old. And so I follow certain people. I was following an author for a little while. She started doing TikTok videos and got her sales spiked so much. She said she thought she might be able to just be writing as a career. I stopped following her after a while because she seemed to run out of ideas on what to do on her videos, and then they started to just not be about anything I wanted to watch.
Who did her videos? How did she get her videos made? Did she do it herself?
Yeah.
And
there are lots of places, lots of instructional videos as well, lots of tips. There's a TikTok for Authors Facebook page, and that is filled with information.
But if you do a video for TikTok, it's going to cost you some money to have it done, correct?
No, you do it yourself. Yeah. It's all on the phone. Look at YouTube. There are several YouTube videos.
My 15-year-old grandson puts out TikTok videos every day. Now they're ridiculous, so but he's not paying anything.
You can use the phone as a camera. Okay, I didn't know.
And it's one of those things that once it goes viral, or you get people following you, and authors, as I'm following on the Facebook page, authors see a lot of spikes in sales based on TikTok. Now, my other idea here locally, because here I am working at Hallmark, but it's not just a Hallmark store, it's also a boutique. And I was waiting until after the holidays to talk to my manager about whether she would consider, like a local author event and having a place in the store that we could have books. And, I think if you can imagine, you can never imagine the amount of money people spend in that store. It blows me away every single day that I work there. And people come in there and will buy the most random things. They're looking for gifts, I can't tell you the number of times somebody comes in there looking for gifts for men, and we don't have a lot, but just imagine if we had books. you know, that you guys write that men would be interested in. So I'm going to wait. I didn't want to say anything to her until I felt like I was established, but they also, Kendall's Hallmark has a store here in North Myrtle Beach, and they have 7 stores in North Carolina. Who knows? Maybe this could become a thing if Rajul, the daughter of the owner, she's their buyer. If I can get her interested and it does well, this could be a good place to get some books sold. So it can't hurt to ask, right? All they can do is say no.
Yeah, I tried a trick. Remember that was Where is Waldo? I sent a copy out to my friend in San Francisco, and I put up on Facebook and said, where is, and that got a lot of feedback, and nobody got it right. But that was the way to do it. And then there were 14 stories. So every week I would put the title or something like that. And you know, it didn't work very well, but it got a lot of coverage.
You're muted, Kathleen.
And I did hire, and one time I did hire a publicist, and he got me on some radio programs. So if you have the money to do it, that's a good way to go.
I think Becky has been really good about finding venues to sell books. I think she probably would have sold more books at Trinity had she had more books, because she was not her usual, hey, you've got to buy this self. But I think there is a calendar in Groups IO. I know some of you don't actually go onto the site, but there is a calendar there. If you know that there is an opportunity for sales coming up, let us know. We certainly have shared the cost of tables, and it's nice to spend time with each other. Even the one Share the Love event I went to with Becky, which if you have 3.5 hours, I will tell you what was wrong with it. Just to spend the afternoon with Becky was wonderful. The other thing is, if you're going to go out, if you have a book, you're going to go out and sell, make sure you have some way to take credit cards.
That's right.
It took me a while, but the difference is amazing. I don't, if I'm dealing with people who are strangers, I don't want to take a check.
Yeah.
And do those ones that you connect them to your phone that you use, does it do Apple Pay and tap? Does it work like that too?
It must, because you can get that for PayPal and Square and all the other ones.
Yeah. I just wondered, because I know that's becoming more of the thing now than using the chip. It's just the tap. Or just using your phone, people do that as well. And
mine, I have a Square, cost me less than $50. I can tap, I can.
Yeah. See, in Rhode Island, it's called the Association of Rhode Island Writers. All they do is market their books. They go to the expo in Massachusetts, and the requirement is you have to stay there the whole damn time. And some of these authors are selling hundreds of books, but you have to buy them. And then what happens if you don't sell them? You're stuck with it. But that's all they do is publicity, publicity, publicity. They have no courses connected with it. And they're well known, they go to the book fairs, but it took them, every opportunity that comes along, they take it. That may be the way to go with you guys, and somebody would suggest, the church has this. Okay, they go off to a church in Exeter.
Yeah.
But all they live for is marketing. And one woman made $3,000 at one of these things, but I don't know how many books she had to sell.
That might be something that could be suggested to SCWA, is to have, a committee or a division of it that's just about the marketing side, because I think probably the authors need that more than than anything else that they're doing.
I mean, there are book fairs all over the country, you know, and all the time. And that definitely is the way to get, you know, you get known. And then everybody, oh, these were last year, they're pretty good. But that is just a thought. Because I know there's a lot of writers upstate from you guys, and they seem to be pretty active. But they don't know what to do with their work.
Mhm.
I got an email from the Darlington Library. I don't know if anybody else got the email. They're doing a author sale. It's just Darlington is so far. But I can send that out. It's something I would do I would go if there were other people going. But let me see if I can find that. Carry on.
I would be interested. Also, Art Under the Oaks this spring. It happens at Pawleys Island every year down the Litchfield by the it's that little like walking path and the Food Lion parking lot on the other side of it where Eggs Up Grill and everything is. But they have tents on either side of the walking path, and it gets a lot of foot traffic. And I know that Nikki did really, really well with her memoir of her parents' letters down there, and I did pretty well too. But next year they're doing it, and I killed it there last year in the spring. This year it's going to be a 2-day event, so I already secured the spot, and it's the best spot on it's because the guy who runs it, Christopher Johns from the photography studio down there, he came by and he's like, if I did this 2 days next spring, would you want to be interested? I'm like, yeah, but I want this spot and the one next to me, and it's spot 42, which is easy to remember because of Douglas Adams, but but yeah, so I was like, but I also want the jewelry woman. He goes, okay, just shoot me an email. So I did. And so
I brought this up before. Maybe we should, as a group, invest in a vendor canopy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tibby, where is mine?
It's in the back of my car. I haven't had a chance to bring it back.
I forgot about it. Hey, don't be in a hurry. As long as I know where it is in the planet, you know, because you're talking about like one of those white ones that most of
we need a 10 by 10 one because yours is what, 13?
Mine's bigger.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we should, and I'm willing to donate to the cause. I don't know how much those cost, but
$15 to $20 a piece, and we could get a really good one, maybe with sides.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got it. I will do some research. I can't volunteer to do much more, but I will look for that.
Well, maybe we can have a gathering in January or something, Kathleen.
A bit nice.
Get together for lunch, and because at some point we need to give you more money for Zoom too. So, you know, like our dues meeting and we can, you know.
Good through July. So.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, then let's get the canopy before that. But I think that's a really good idea. And because I know, Becky, you already have a setup, but
yeah, I have a canopy. I have 2 6-foot tables, a 4-foot table, and I have the black tablecloths that go all the way to the ground for each of those, so stuff's up under them. Because before we moved here, we used to have a woodworking business up through 2017-ish, and a lot of those shows are juried, and you have to have a certain type of setup, so your tablecloth has to come all the way to the ground. So when I started, you know, writing full-time and going to book signings, I already had all the stuff. So, well,
it might be good if you tell us what we need, and you know, it would be wise to invest in what we need before we try to get to an event where it's like, oh, we need these tablecloths or whatever.
Yeah.
Are those aren't the stretchy ones then, right? What
no,
you're talking about.
These are just come all the way
that
to
go
the ground
all the way around. Okay.
Yeah. And they weren't that much. Everything I get from Amazon.
Camille had a nice setup for down in the convention. She had gotten big posters made up of her books and everything. She looked very professional down there. And that's on her Facebook if you want it. Anybody wants to check that. She had pictures of being at the convention.
She really enjoyed that too.
We need to remake
as a former business owner and marketing, get a good product, get ready to hustle and be innovative. Just like listening to that 15-year-old, they're the future buyers. They know a lot more than we give them credit for. And I'm speaking with my young 12-year-old granddaughter, and she's like, well, you can go on and do this and you can do that. And she's pulling up these pictures, changing things all over. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, slow down. Show grandma how to do this. And I'm shocked at what they know how to do. And they just zip around this internet like unbelievable. But if you're going to do things, you got to hustle. There are lots of articles written out there on how I became wealthy as an author. Read them, because some of them have some pretty good ideas. And it isn't all about selling the bestseller, because I read an article about also people who become bestsellers have become and then stay on the bestsellers list. This because they buy $1 million with their million books with their money, and then sell them. So there's not room for you, because they're already going to be up there for a while.
The people who do that,
but
the people who do that, they buy their own books to go on the bestseller list. They I know the USA Today bestseller list is on hiatus until sometime next year. But if you go back and look at there will be a little asterisk or something. They have some way to note those people. And it says, this ranking was obtained by a large purchase or something.
Yeah. Well, and who knows? We may not be capable of writing a bestseller. I don't care. I'm going to still keep writing, and I'm going to enjoy it. I mean, I just love Nikki. I'm going on tour. And she's just as happy as could be. That's who I want to be. I'm going on tour.
Well,
and
I've already
contacting my book launching party. You all better be there, even you, Richard. We're going to have a great caterer.
I'm going to be contacting all the bookstores in the state and just see if I can get some readings and sales there.
Contact Baker Books in New Bedford.
Okay.
It's a local independent bookstore.
Okay.
The other place in that area in Westport, there's a place called Partners Village Store.
Okay.
The woman who was the curator of the books has retired. I knew Jan really well. I don't know who's doing it now. But come springtime, it might be worth you doing a trip over to Westport and New Bedford to those stores and talk to the people.
Yeah, I'm looking at expanding to like New Hampshire and Vermont and Maine at some point. And a website called New Pages lists all the independent bookstores by state. So I'm going to put together a list and just see what happens.
Okay. So marketing, we need to go to as many fairs as we can do it, and we need to
get known. That's it. I mean, just because now that they're the area, it looks like it's an area, and that you just say, "Oh, I know that's a place they sell books." So they're that well known in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, and it really helps when they sell, and they get a huge turnout of people. I mean, it's quite amazing. I don't know how long they've been doing this, but you have to stay at the site. You can't, if you go to the expo, you have to be there for 2 days. You can't be there for 1 day. So.
And I think the problem that we have is that if you go to too many of them close together and you sell your books, then you don't have enough books for the next one.
That's true.
Pull back. And how many do you really want to keep on hand in your house?
See, that's the fault I see with the Rhode Island thing. You don't know how many books to get, and they don't tell you. I mean, one author, 3,000 books, I guess that's the record. Other ones, a couple of hundred, but that's a missing piece that they just won't reveal.
Becky, what were you going to say?
Normally I have 10 copies of book 1 in the series, and then 5 copies of books 2.
Yeah, that's
and 10 copies of any standalone, and that pretty much holds me over. But then I ran into the problem where Richard said, where I signed up for so many things, and then I did Amazon could not get my last books to me in time for the Trinity Fair. So like Kathleen said, I didn't have as many, and I still sold enough to cover the table and the pizza money. So, or like my part of the table and the pizza money later, and then a little extra. So that I was happy with that. That was fine. Like, I don't have any lofty goals. I just like interacting with readers, and that's the only time that I don't have crippling social anxieties. But also,
So can I ask a question about that?
yeah.
Is that a case where you could sell the book that you don't have in your hand, and with their purchase, you could give them a downloadable version to start on the book until they get the hard copy shipped to them?
Starting next month, I'm going to have the books available on my website, so they can buy them. So they can buy signed paperback straight from my website. And
I'm selling mine to the website, and I've gotten zero business.
Now, I just wondered if that would be a way for you to be able to sell at a festival when you run out and say, you know, I can still sell you this book, and I'll mail it to you, but then that adds the shipping expense to your, that would not be good unless you could get free shipping from Amazon.
So what I'm doing for the direct sales is they pay me on PayPal, and like they pay, like, let's say it's $12 instead of $10. I order the book at full price from Amazon with Amazon Prime, get the free shipping. I get the royalty from the sale. And then I send the book to them media mail, which is cheaper. And they get a signed copy with and I throw in like a bookmark and some stickers and whatever else.
Tibby, you need to go over that again, because Tibby is thinking.
Yeah, but run that by us again.
So it'll be on my website. Okay. And I'm running it through Shopify, because that way I can have the ebooks. Well, if they buy an ebook from me, they can get it direct from BookFunnel. Mm-hmm. So BookFunnel will automatically ship the book, like send the book to their email. I had to set all this up for a client, and I was like, wait a minute, I already have BookFunnel. Shopify is only like $30 a month. So, but yeah, so what I do is I just, instead of the book being $10, it's like $12, and I put on there that they'll get free shipping with the $12 and some swag. And then I'll throw in maybe like a postcard or bookmarks, stickers. Stickers go over really well. And then I buy the book at full price. I get the royalty, which more than covers the price of the media mail shipping.
Oh.
So I'm just making a little bit on it, but still it's,
but it's
through my website and
a royalty.
Yep. Right. And if I want to sell the copies I have on hand, let's say because I only do book signings that are outdoor to the beginning of May, and I don't start up again until mid-September because I don't like hot weather. Caleb Weigel does them year-round. He does the Myrtle Beach Mysteries, and he is everywhere. He's like on TV, he's in the newspaper. Like every time you turn around and see his name, he's killing it, but he puts in the work. And he asked me, I was going to be at the River Fest in Conway. And I'm like, in July? I'm like, are you kidding? Like, I'm a menopausal woman. There's no way. Like, hot flashes, I can keep them in the air conditioning. I don't need to be out in 90-degree weather. So I didn't tell him all that. But anyway, I was like, no, I'm not a,
I'm unavailable is all you said.
Yeah,
right?
I don't care for those temperatures.
I got all that going. The sun is out and it's time for a big walk.
Okay.
Okay.
Get your goals for next year. Be in touch.
Merry Christmas. Oh, he's gone.
But yeah, so the direct sales will really come in handy during that time, like during the summer months when I'm not out there.
Okay.
So
what were you gonna say? Peggy?
Oh, me. We went to this Zoom, and there was this big controversy. We weren't part of it, but there was a publisher there, and people were saying that minorities, that a lot of the publishers are looking for works by minorities, and the publisher got furious and said, oh, you're a bunch of racists. But I don't know. Is that a reality or not?
I think it's out there. I think they're looking to diversify. I think there's a lot of criticism that they're not reaching a broad enough audience. But you can still, I mean, that's gets us into the other sort of controversy, you know, where you publish. And we have strong opinions on all sides as to whether you go traditional publishing. Do you try to get an agent who's going to work with a big press or a small press? Do you self-publish? You know, those are all the dilemmas that are out there. So
you're saying there is some truth to it?
I think there's some truth to it, because I'm seeing in the books that are coming across my feed more diversity in the characters and the situations. So yes, I think they're looking for that. So I will give you, I have a secret marketing device, and that is a cousin in Oregon who first bought Hell Hath No Fury and bought 10 copies and went around and gave them to all his friends. And he is now, for complicated reasons, spending 10 hours a week in a hyperbaric chamber. And apparently there's a bunch of people in this tube hyperbaric chamber, and there's not a whole lot you can do in there. So he bought another 8 copies to hand out to the people who were in the hyperbaric.
There we go.
Captive audience. Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
He said he can't, he said you can't have anything metal that's in there. So he can't wear his glasses. And he can't have his hearing aids in. There is a TV, but he can't hear it. And he said, I'm not alone in there, but so he reads, and so he's given out books, and I guess he left 1 or 2 copies out in the lobby for the people who go through the hyperbaric chamber at other times, because this place goes basically 24 hours a day. So.
Well, I know years back we donated Larry's family papers to a historical society, no problem. And this is not racism. I contacted 3 historical societies, and they all said, we're just taking in women or minority papers, family papers, which I thought was unfair. I'm like, boy, poor, you know, a lot of history in South Carolina is white males that had money. But, you know, so, okay.
Yeah. You wouldn't think a historical society would turn down.
No,
I was
angry about it. Yeah, these were major
problems of where to store it, how to maintain it. I mean,
and how many have a woman in the 1700s that was doing all that much? I mean, we have 1 woman and we had 9 males. The males were a lot more significant to South Carolina history than the woman. They said, oh, we only want the woman.
Yeah.
Eliza Lucas Pinckney would be one.
Well, it was in the medical field.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you should probably keep pushing that, you know.
Yeah.
Keep asking.
Find other places. One thing that I wanted to mention is the Chapin Library does book club packs. You can donate like 10 books and put them together, and with talking points and stuff, and then book clubs can check them out.
Oh.
Now, you know, if you're willing to do that, they're a private library.
Yeah.
Well,
also you could publish them on Amazon or make them available on like different platforms yourself. You could self-publish them, make them available through Libby, and then readers, library patrons could read them through the Libby app.
Oh, what's Libby? Libby?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, Libby's great. It's for downloading ebooks from the library.
And I forget, there's like one platform, I don't know if it's Barnes & Noble or Kobo or what, but there's one of them where it says, do you want this available to libraries? And it might be Overdrive is the other one.
If you put it through draft to digital.
Mm-hmm.
Draft to digital lets you do, well, there's international, but there's also Overdrive and the other library. It's not Libby, but there's another library app. And so you can't, there's a weird thing there with Amazon, but I have the book on Amazon through Amazon, or the books, but I also have it on everything but Amazon through draft to digital. So don't get a whole lot of sales, but hey, you know, something that's better than nothing.
It's because you get a lower royalty rate if they do your Amazon. If you put in a draft to digital and have them send it to Amazon, you get a lower royalty rate. So you'll get a little pop-up message that says, "We do not recommend this. You can make more money by putting it on Amazon yourself," or whatever. So
you are just a wealth of knowledge, girl. I'm glad I'm in this group with you.
My day job, my boss is a New York Times bestselling author.
Are you serious?
And I watched her go from the bottom up. Like I watched her grow, and so
wow.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Peggy, I told Becky one time I just wanted to go to her house and stand behind her and watch her all day.
Exactly.
And just take notes.
Exactly, because I think a lot of creative people maybe don't like the marketing too much. You know, they're like,
necessary evil.
Necessary evil.
Even if your book is picked up by a small press or, you know, any press, you're going to have to do marketing. I mean, we all know the stories. They want you to, you know, unless you're, you know, you have the big name, you know, if you're James Patterson, you might not have to do marketing.
Yeah.
But everybody else.
He still has virtual assistants that they do his marketing. I know people who've written with him, they've co-written with him. And because he has the thing now where he co-writes, and people accuse him of using ghostwriters, he doesn't. He really puts in the work. And he also is one of the most philanthropic authors out there. Like, he gives away so much money to literacy programs. And anyway, enough of my James Patterson soapbox, but I have a friend, her name's Wendy Corsi-Staub. She's written probably 90 to 100 books by now, many of them landing on the USA Today and New York Times bestselling list. She's been published with all the major publishing houses in New York, and she still does her own social media because, you know, it's unfortunately, like, if you got published in the 70s or 80s, you're gonna have a publicist, they're gonna send you on a book tour across the country, and they're gonna pay for everything. And they don't do that as much now. And I was surprised when I attended my first conference to know that the big name authors who were there had to pay to get into the conference just like I did. And they had to pay for their own hotel room just like I did.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think one of the things Becky said previously, and this is for reminder for all of us, is to have at least one form of social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, that you're comfortable with, and then try something that maybe is a little out there. I would not recommend Twitter at this point, but you know.
Yeah, I have Twitter just because I don't want anyone else to take my name.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I'm the psychedelic sheep in my family. So I have family members who would probably take the name just out of spite if it became available. So what I'm doing is, and I haven't been back to Twitter, but I'm just going to pin a post that says this account is, you know, I'm no longer using this account. Here's where else you can find me.
That's what I'm going to do too. I'm done with it.
So
anyway.
I mean, I've never used Twitter because I don't have time to be bothered with all of that. But if I thought it was going to help me as an author, I would.
Yeah.
But I just haven't I've never done it before.
Yeah. I have one author friend, and that's their only social media network that they use. And like, we both got puppies at the same time and that kind of thing. So, and we talk about our books, but that's the only place I talk to them. So that was the only reason I kept Twitter. So then a friend suggested that they were just going to put like a little pin post saying, you know, I'm no longer using this platform. please visit my website to
But
see
then
how
you
it's.
should keep your name, so that's
Yep.
smart.
Yep. And speaking of my website, I have a page which I have in my list of resources to share with everybody, and it's just beckymuth.com/authors, and it has a bunch of free resources. So,
Great.
because I love free.
I was part of All Authors, and I found it didn't cost that much for 6 months. They every week you got a graphic with, you put in the cover of your book, and every week they sent you a graphic that you could post in various places. But they would tweet for you about once a month. They tweeted something about, a little blurb about your book. So technically I was tweeted through them. So I thought that there's a lot of places out there that will help you with marketing. Mostly they're taking your money. But I did find that very helpful, because the graphic that you got, and you could make other graphics for seasonal things, picture of your book, a little blurb, whatever, those are yours. And so you can pull them up a year later, 2 years later, and post them on Facebook as a reminder. So that's not, I consider myself to be graphically challenged. And I know people could do interesting things, but that was, for me, I think it was like $50 for 6 months. It was a good investment.
We own a photography company, and we have taken, for self-publishers, we have taken some photographs for their books to put
Their author photos.
Author photos, yeah. We've done some of that.
You don't develop film by chance, do you?
Not anymore. I mean, years ago, sure, but
I have like 15 rolls from like probably 20 years ago that we found when we were moving down here a couple years ago. They've been like in a Ziploc bag. They were in the back of our pantry, so they've always been in like a cool, dark place. So now we're just, hanging on to them in case we find someone.
I think there are, labs online that specialize in that sort of situation. Yeah. I haven't used one.
Yeah, I have like a couple of those, back in the day where you had those little cameras that had the little cartridges. And I think I took a bunch of them to CVS some years ago, but those little ones, they won't do anymore. So who knows what's on them? I have no idea.
Yeah, I think every wedding in the 90s had those on the tables.
Anyway.
I was going to say one more thing, Kathleen, because you and Tibby, one thing you didn't mention, isn't that website called Fiverr that you've used to have maps made? And yeah, that's another.
Vet them well.
Editing done there.
There are a lot of good reviews, because you can get ripped off.
Yeah, you've got to be careful.
Yeah. I haven't had a bad experience.
I haven't either. I've also used Reedsy, Reedsy. I've had 2 experiences. One was great. Teresa Janellen did the cover to Hell Hath No Fury. She was marvelous to work with. And yes, I could have gone to, Covers R Us. There's a couple of places out there that will do self-publishing covers. But she was able to take my vision and put it into a watercolor, gave me, did the cover, did the back of the cover. And I think that's a spam call. Anyway, but she, and I also have a watercolor, which is now hanging up in the wall of my house. So it was worth it. The person who did the editing, I was not as happy with. I discovered afterwards, what I did not know at the time, is that English was not her first language.
Oh my gosh.
I think her English was fine, except that I was dealing with early American.
Yeah.
Hang on a second, I can't stand this.
Maybe while she's gone, do you have another event coming up that you need to use?
I don't.
Okay. I was going to say, don't just when you're driving by, just put it on my porch. There's no hurry. I'm not going to be going camping anytime soon. So, or to the beach. So.
The woman who did the editing, she was, I think probably technically she was fine in some ways, but she struggled with the fact that the book was set in early 20th century small town America. And she just had real problems with the grammar and, you know, it was not a good fit. For somebody who was writing something contemporary, she would have been better. I had the old pro writing aid at that point. With the new pro writing aid, I wouldn't have needed her. If you haven't gotten the new pro writing aid, you have to upgrade your Word to get it. It corrects as you go along.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're typing, it will pop up saying, do you want to use the passive? You know?
Oh, nice.
And of course, with the history that I'm writing, I do have to use the passive sometime. I'm sorry, it's a history. It's, you know, straight history. But I can sort of say, you know, ignore this rule. But it gives great suggestions. So you're typing a sentence and it'll say, why don't you do it? And it'll give you like 3 or 4 different ways to do it. So
Oh, wow.
I'm glad I have the lifetime membership and program.
Does that include, like, when you said about an upgrade, do you get the upgrade if you have the lifetime membership, or you said you had to upgrade Word?
I had to upgrade Word.
Okay.
And I was struggling because I couldn't, it had upgraded, Pro Writing Aid had upgraded, but I couldn't use it with my old version of Word, which was, you know, I was not quite as bad as Richard, but almost.
So, like, is Pro Writing Aid, is it working in the background while you're typing in Word?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, it's an extension on Word.
I'm sorry?
It's an extension. You just add it to Word.
Word. Okay. Because I always put my stuff in Pro Writing Aid. I guess I didn't realize I could have been doing it that way, probably all along.
Yeah, Becky's put the workshop information in there for Darlington. So anyway, anybody else have anything to add? I will share. You can stop recording, Tibby.
Okay.
I'll